The opinions expressed in this program are not those of CISA 7 or Time Warner Cable.
What's your tomorrow?
For the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are you reading that? No, I was going to do this part.
Next, I'd like to ask Ed Dorff to read the mission statement.
We educate all students to be college, career, and community ready, inspired to succeed in our diverse world.
Thank you, Ed. Next is our open forum. This is a chance for members of the community to speak before the board. Is there anyone who would like to speak before the board this evening? Seeing none, we will move to our recognition.
Well, tonight we have some very special students joining us. They are members of the Bay Area Ice Bears, comprised of 11 of our area high schools, including East, Preble, Southwest, and West. And this past year, the Ice Bears compiled a regular season record of 18-3-3. The Ice Bears earned their third trip to the WIAA state tournament since 2010. In the state semifinal game, the Ice Bears beat a very good Hayward team, 2-1, to move on to the championship game. And I have to share with you, I was not in Madison, but Kim Paula was there and John Magus, our two associate superintendents, who were texting me wildly. You women just did an outstanding job thrilling everyone in the state championship game. And while you didn't come out the victors, the Ice Bears lost 2-1 in overtime. You certainly had an extraordinary season, and you represented so well, and we are very, very proud of you. So they are the 2017 Girls State Hockey runner-up team, and with them, I think our head coach is here. Are you here? So Brandon, how do you say that?
Brett was not here.
Okay.
He had a child last night, so.
Oh, then we'll give him a bye.
He's excused.
But we do have our athletes are here, and then we have a recognition that we'd like to come up with. So I'll invite the athletes to join us as I call your name. We have Evelyn Vincent from Southwest High School. Yep, and Maddie Gibson from Southwest as well. And Brooke Gehring from Southwest. And she wasn't able to make it.
Janelle's not here either.
Okay. And we also, as part of the team, is Janelle Wertruba, and she's from Preble, and she is not able to make it tonight. But we're really grateful to have you here and to honor you. And I see that you brought your small petite trophy with you this evening. Oh, my goodness. And we also have a special recognition that we'd like to share with you as well.
I'll just read the recognition. In recognition of Green Bay United Bay Area Ice Bears for earning silver at the 2017 state competition, signed by Michelle Langenfeld, Brenda Warren on April 17th, 2017. in Stanley Cup season.
I know, it is very appropriate. And for those who don't know, Tim Flood is here. He is head of our athletic directors, or activities directors, and assistant principal at East High School as well, who is on point for the whole program for all the different school districts. And we're grateful to you, Tim, as well, to coordinate this extraordinary opportunity for our students. So thank you so much.
What are your positions? What positions do you play?
I play right wing.
I play defense.
Yeah, we have 27 girls out, which is great. It's a-
Here, I think you need a mic so that people who are at home can hear you as well. Here we go.
There are 27 girls out for the hockey program, and we have 4 that are in the public schools. Next year, we're going to have 2 more from Preble that will be joining the Ice Bears. We'll have a total of either 5 or 6 that will be part of the program. This is the first year we have a full JV team. We haven't had that before. So we've been working hard to work other schools to have some JV games. And this program is just thriving right now. It's growing and it's very successful. And a lot of hard work goes into this. These girls are doing it all year round, in the summer, in the fall, and they're starting to get into the spring stuff right now. So the amount of work and effort that goes into it, you can see what can happen. So congratulations to the whole team.
Hey, Tim,
Yes.
is that girl who plays hockey, lives over on Edinburgh, is she going to be at Preble next year?
Yorkshire, yes.
We're going to take
Yes,
some
that
pictures.
young lady will be.
You have to hold the trophy.
Okay.
Oh, it's wonderful. Isn't it great?
It is.
We're looking this way and
Get
drag it in. And
Isn't it nice?
We can all snuggle in here?
It's the staff scoop. Come
That's
on.
right.
There's hockey players with all their teeth. too.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Ed.
Thank you. Again, congratulations.
It's good to see you.
Thank you. A special shout out to the parents as well. I know that there's been many years of ice time and in the middle of the nights and all those things to get your students to play hockey. So thank you so much, and I'm sure they're looking forward to the future as well. So thanks for bringing them tonight as well. Thanks, Tim. You don't know.
Yeah, you
Have a great evening, and thanks again.
All right, next we have our report of the Board of Canvassers, and I'll have Andrew Becker read that.
We, the undersigned, certify that we are the members of the Board of Canvassers for the Green Bay Area Public School District. We certify that the attached tabular statement of votes cast and summary statement of the Board of Canvassers, canvassed and prepared by us, are correct and true as compiled from the Green Bay Area Public School District Deputy Clerk. We further determine and certify that the following persons received the greatest and the next to greatest number of votes for the respective office for which each was a candidate on April 4th, 2017. Green Bay Area Public School District School Board Member Katie Maloney, Green Bay Area Public School District School Board Member Laura McCoy, Green Bay Area Public School District Referendum 1, yes. Green Bay Area Public School District Referendum 2, yes. And that is signed Chris Teskey and Anita Rowley.
All right, thank you. Next is our annual election of the school district officers and secretary to the Board of Education. I would open up for nominations, first for election of president.
I would nominate Brenda Warren.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sandy?
Maloney,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Dorf,
Aye.
Jan,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
McCoy. Aye. Wagner.
Carried 7-0. Would open next for nomination for vice president.
I would nominate Katie Maloney.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sandy?
McCoy? Aye. Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
York?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Next for treasurer.
I might add, I have been treasurer the last several years, and I would prefer not to have that position this
Oh,
coming year.
okay. Is there anyone who would like position of treasurer?
I'm willing if,
All right.
Are you interested in a different position or just in not having treasurer?
Well, I have a belief after so many years doing in a certain position, there should be a turnover. And I feel that way about all the offices, quite frankly, and I think we need, from my perspective, to have that discussion later this year prior to next year. If no one else is interested, then I'll certainly do it again, but my bias is that someone else should try it.
I guess I'm saying if you're interested in a different office, I would accept, if I were to be nominated for treasurer, I would be okay with that nomination instead of clerk if you wish to be nominated for something, or I'm happy to be clerk too.
I had not been thinking in terms of another position.
Okay.
Again, if there's a default here and no one truly wants to do it, I'll be happy to fill in.
I'll open up for nominations.
I nominate Andrew.
Or, well,
Becker.
Ed,
Nominate Ed Dorff
Because
for
you said you were
the
willing to-
treasurer.
necessary.
is there a second?
Second?
Sandy?
Becker?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
York?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye.
Carried 7-0. The next election, nomination for clerk.
I would nominate Andrew Becker.
I'll second that.
Sandy?
Warren?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Janice?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
York?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Finally, nomination for our secretary to the Board of Education.
I would nominate Sandra Heller.
Second?
Sandy?
Wagner?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
York?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. And then next we have our school board organization and our appointments to our various committees and a few others. So first is the work session co-chairs, and currently we have Julie Jansch on monitoring reports, and Mike Blecka's position on that committee is empty. And we have Katie Maloney and Ed Dorff on teaching and learning, and Andrew Becker and Chris Wagner on operational support. And I guess at this point, if everyone is good where they are, the logical thing would be to put Laura on the monitoring reports. Unless there's somebody else. Is everybody good with that?
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Do we have to vote on that, Sandy? No, okay. And then our legislative liaison, Julie Jansch, has volunteered to be our legislative liaison, and we'll begin with her first report tonight. We also have our CSIS 7 liaison and representative to the annual convention. I think we've had a few years, no one's been able to go to that. It's not, it's not an absolute necessity, but it is a chance to go just see what CSIS 7 is doing in terms of their work. So is there anyone this year that would be interested in attending the May 10th meeting for CSIS 7?
May I make a comment?
Yes.
I've gone in the past, and I would do so now, other than I will be out of town. It's interesting to go and to see these other districts and what's going on. I wish I would have gotten a copy of it, but to see the number of districts within CSIS 7
Yeah.
and how small so many of them are, that's eye-opening. I guess we could have a further discussion another time about it, but that's illuminating to me, and we're just so far ahead in terms of size. It was almost ridiculous.
Brenda, where's that held? In Green Bay?
Yeah, it's in Green Bay at the CISA building, which is down almost to De Pere on Broadway.
I'll attend.
Oh, okay. All right, good, thank you. And then the WASB delegate and alternate, we usually put that off until the fall. We don't need to know that until, what, October? Something like that? Okay. But if you have an interest in doing that, let me know. And I know you've been doing it for quite a number of years. So yeah, just let me know, or otherwise when we'll do it again and talk about it again in September to get that on the record. And then Ed, you're currently our Head Start representative. Are you still willing to
Absolutely.
do that? Okay, great, thank you. All right, and then next is our board structure and meetings. We all received a list of our school assignments for 2017. And those, of course, switch every year, so we get a brand new set of schools each year. And then our Board of Education, our meeting calendar, the only unexpected change in that, other than the Labor Day and New Year's and spring break and all those kinds of things that we usually have to change our schedule for, is Sandy put us on the first and the fourth Monday in April, because of the fact that technically that's the official date of when the newly elected board members should start. So the last couple of years we have been meeting on the third. We used to meet on the second and fourth Monday, or third and fourth Monday. So anyway, that'll be a switch for next year's calendar.
Brenda, can I just make a comment with regard to the school assignments? And I don't know who's covering the website, but I noticed when I was looking something up on the website, when they list board members, they list schools served, and then they put our school assignments. And it's a matter of semantics, but it kind of gives the impression that you're serving just those schools, and we're serving all of them. Is there a way that you can reword that and just make it like school assignments for the 2017-18 school year? And then just, because I think it's good to have, that contact information up there, but it's just the school served piece. Thank you.
All right, next is our roll call. Sandy?
Becker?
Here.
Dorf?
Here.
Jant?
Here.
Maloney?
Here?
McCoy? Here. Wagner?
Here.
Warren?
Here.
Sinclair? Here.
All 7 board members are present. And also we're joined at the table to my left, Dr. Michelle Langenfeld, our superintendent, Sandy Heller, our secretary to the board, who was just reelected for another year, and also Grace Sinclair, who's from Preble. She's president of Intercity Student Council. I would entertain a motion to approve the following minutes. Regular board meeting March 13th, 2017. Special board meeting April 10th, 2017. And a special board meeting closed session April 3rd, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
I'm just, not on this list is our regular board meeting, right, Sadie? We should be approving that too?
March 15th? March 15th is our regular board.
They were close together because of spring break.
We had an early one.
Yeah, but didn't we have okay, yes, okay, got it. All right, so we moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, those are approved. We have no communications to place on file today, and next is our monitoring reports, and that will be facilitated by Julie Janch.
Tonight, we're going to be having a multi-level systems of support presentation. John Magus will be discussing that with us and presenting. No, the achievement gap reduction is tabled, I believe.
No, the ML,
They're
other one,
switched?
yeah.
Okay. So we're going to do the achievement gap reduction, mid-year school update, and the multi-level systems of support will be tabled and rescheduled. Okay, I got it wrong on here.
Having been
caught off guard by not having enough chairs and brought reinforcements. But we were scheduled to have part one of our multi-level systems of support planning today, and then part two offered in May, but we're going to consolidate. Nancy Chartier had an unexpected situation come up, and she's been really the shepherd of a lot of the processes related, and we wanted to make sure that she was here for that presentation.
Okay.
But now I have Andrea Landwehr and Ann Barsh, who will be sharing information on our achievement gap reduction, as well as Stephen Miller. I knew I brought 2 chairs. So we've worked with the board on presenting regularly on achievement gap reduction, and this is our next installment in what we're doing with our achievement gap reduction in our various schools. We have detailed information related to this. We've also tried to gather for additional consistency to make sure that the reporting we have is clear and well articulated. We also have a large number of administrators who are representing our achievement gap reduction schools. And I'd like to, without further ado, turn it over to Ann, Andrea, and Stephen.
Thank you, John. Members of the Board of Education, Dr. Langenfeld, and our community, thank you for giving us this opportunity to share with you progress that our schools are making towards continuous school improvement. Achievement gap reduction, otherwise known as AGR, is Act 53, and it was passed into law on July 1st of 2015, formerly known as Student Achievement Guarantee in Education, or SAGE. And our goal with AGR and the move from SAGE to AGR is really about the moving from a compliance to class size to supporting a system of continuous school improvement.
Our achievement gap reduction schools include DANS, and our early learning center, the ELC, is a feeder school to DAN, their kinders. Eisenhower, with ELC also a feeder school for Eisenhower. Fort Howard, Howe, Jefferson, Lincoln, Nicolay, Tank, and Sullivan Elementary, with ELC also as a feeder school. The achievement gap reduction has a focus on low socioeconomic status. It is a focus on reading and math achievement, and it is about closing the gap between identified low socioeconomic students and non-identified students. The achievement gap reduction strategies that we are using, these were what were the strategies that we were able to change to. When it was SAGE, it was simply class size reduction. The numbers got over 18, you reduced class size. Well, now it includes one-to-one tutoring by licensed teachers in reading or trained in math, instructional coaching by a licensed teacher, and K-3 class size ratios of 1 to 18 or 2 to 30, and professional development on small group differentiation in combination with the other strategies.
Why the change from SAGE to AGR focuses on continuous school improvement. Our leadership strategies that we've been cultivating throughout the 2016-17 school year have a focus on learning through looking at the results. So looking at the data that allows us to think about results and the impact that they're having on the strategies as we enter into our continuous cycles of inquiry at a school level. Additionally, it's about collaboration. So there's a strong focus on cultivating teams that get together and collaborate to support their practice in the classroom. The mid-year board report for 2016, it starts out with strategy implementation, which is really those 3 areas that Ann just talked about, which is really about continuous school improvement. Included is a mid-year progress monitoring data that is disaggregated by low socioeconomic status, ethnicity, English language learners, and special education. Then it starts out with the district aggregate and of all the data, and then we break it down into disaggregated by each individual school, which is disaggregated by the population of students that they serve. Additionally, in the narrative, they are talking about the high leverage action steps that they have put into place to support continuous school improvement. Achievement gap reduction has been a year of transition for us this year. We came to the table in August of 2016, and the board asked that we come together and create a similar and consistent report amongst all 10 schools that made it easier for you to be looking at growth and progress of each individual school. So through a very collaborative effort that included our technology department, our assessment department under Steve's leadership, our research and development under Gwen Stromp's leadership, and then our teaching and learning and bilingual departments. We really started to take on some deep learning around assessment literacy and build clarity for our schools on not only what type of assessment, but actually recording the data into a data bank that we would be able to pull and actually look at growth, but then create charts and graphs that help all of you as we illustrate that growth. In addition to that, we really looked at purpose and use of assessments, so curriculum-based, those value-added assessments that help support continuous school improvement in the schools, in our classrooms, and then at a school level, but then also the standardized, the ones that we're reporting out at a very public level. We also took on a lot of learning with our school leaders this year, and they transferred that to their school leadership teams to operationalize multi-level systems of support. Our goal was that our teaching and learning team would be presenting MLSS to continue to build your background before you saw the AGI report. But what I can tell you is that tonight, what you're going to see in the report is the multi-level systems of support. You're going to see through the strategy implementation and the principals' narratives on what they've been doing as far as those three areas, the coaching, also the intervention. Those two areas specifically are what support the three different levels in the multi-level systems of support. The coaching is at the Tier 1 or universal level. The intervention is at the Tier 2 level. We did a lot of talk with and learning as a central office staff around assessment purpose. And we talked about the assessment for learning and the assessment of learning. And the assessment for learning is really the learning that's taking place and how we are progress monitoring it at both the classroom and then at a school-wide level, so that building leadership teams can start planning for the professional learning. So we're looking at what do our students have under control, what are their next steps in learning based on the data that we're looking at through the assessment results. But then in addition, what are the things that we as adults need to take on in order to support change in our own practice? Assessment of learning is more of the learning that becomes public. It is usually standardized, has a normal curve equivalency or a scaled score, so that you can really measure growth and compare it from one school to the next or one district to the next. We also started to look at what is the intent for both of the assessment for learning and the assessment of learning. We looked at assessment for learning as being a process. Again, it's used to engage the teaching learning organization into those strategies of continuous school improvement. And then it's to guide next steps, immediate steps in teaching and learning, both at a classroom and school level. Assessment of learning, it's the high-level information on change over time, both at a school level and on district-wide achievement. It also helps us to look at how are our kids doing on that trajectory of looking at that growth, and how our students, it has a predictive value that tells us how our students will be doing on what our state assessments are. Then also assessment of learning, it's to develop not only awareness, but most critically, the trust that we're gaining in our school board and our public on the strategies that we're using for continuous school improvement. Oops, I think I went
I think
too.
we missed a slide. Okay, good. That does. Examples of curriculum assessments versus standardized assessments are assessments for learning. The curriculum assessments could be running records, running reading records, and Spanish and English. It could be Words Their Ways or Trujillo. Am I saying that right? Good. Good. Also, writing rubrics that go with our writing, and Advantage Math Recovery, or AVMR. Those are assessments for learning. Then assessments of learning are those standardized assessments that we have access to. They could be STAR Early Literacy or STAR Early Numeracy, STAR Reading, Spanish and English, and STAR Math.
Currently, for the 2016-17 school year, what you will see in the report is that we used curriculum assessments. We used both running records, Spanish and English. You'll see it broken out by. In addition to that, we used the AVMR math benchmark assessment. The reason this year that we used the curriculum assessments is that they were the assessments that are common across all 10 of our schools. In addition to that, they are the assessments that are common in our non-AGR schools. We also looked at moving towards the future. In 2017-18, we're looking at our standardized assessment. It will allow us to give you comparative growth data that is both norm referenced and has a normal curve equivalency. At that point, we'll be using STAR Early Literacy Numeracy, STAR Reading in both English and in Spanish, and then STAR Math. Our goal is to be able to provide you the 2 reports a year that shows specific growth according to the standardized assessments. So the standardized assessments at each individual AGR school. As we move into our board monitoring reports for continuous school improvement, you'll see that our AGR reports are really our continuous school improvement reports, and they'll be done starting next year at a K through 5, then at a middle, and then at a high school level. So it won't just be the AGR report that is kindergarten through 3rd grade. At this time, we'd like to bring you into the actual AGR district-wide report. It was posted out on Neptune last Thursday, on April 13th. Our hope is that you had some time to look at the report, and this would be a time for us to be able to answer any questions that you may have. Kristen, if you can just scroll down a little bit, you'll see that it starts out district-wide. It is disaggregated. First, it starts out with the Achievement Gap Reduction Strategy implementation. Again, that is class size, coaching, and then systems for identification and providing intervention in both the area of math and literacy. From there, it goes into the data. You'll see it starts out district-wide data, then it moves down into each individual school with a principal report, a narrative on the strategy implementation, professional learning, progress that they're seeing at a school level. Those reports, those narratives were done with the building leadership team, not in isolation by just one person. Questions that you have for a district level, or if you'd like to address any one of our principals who are here.
And it starts at the district level, but then it does go to the individual schools, and not suggesting that we ask every individual school to report on it, but as I looked at those numbers and I looked at those charts, the district numbers tell us one story, and it doesn't look bad. It looks like there's consistent growth. But when I look at the schools, the disparity between schools, if I'm looking at those reports correctly, is really disturbing. Now, how do we explain that?
So, just to summarize, I believe what you're asking is why at some schools...
What I'm seeing is that there are some schools that show significant growth.
Yes.
There are other schools that are showing
right
here in the fall, and then we're dropping in the spring.
I believe it goes back to the critical learning that we're doing not only at central office, but the support that we're giving at a school level around the multi-level systems of support, we know that every school is on a journey. We all have a end and outcome, a goal that we're striving for.
How are we losing ground at several schools during the course of the year? That's what it appears to be.
I believe that when you use curriculum assessment, you are looking at that change within a year.
Yeah.
So as you continue to move towards the middle of the year, move on, you'll see at the end of the year, some of the assessment components become more rigorous, the concepts that they're testing, and what we're doing right now is working some of our strategies at the Universal. You'll see that it's to improve practice at the Universal to meet the additional needs that kids have.
Would you be comfortable
in the
talking
classroom.
about what you see or what administration sees as the critical factors that between school A that is showing steady, consistent growth and school B that is either flat or
Absolutely.
going down?
Yeah, I can speak for some of the schools that I work with. First of all, I want you to know that, as you all know, it's very complex. We have children coming to us with a variety of different needs. What the AGR schools all have in common is that they are all high poverty. We call them our hyper-poverty schools. And we know that when you have a lot of poverty that you're working with, not all, but many of our students come to us with the other influences in their life, that trauma, other mental illness that we as a district need to set up a system of support for. So I'm going to talk right now about the strategies that I see and the learning, and we'll just call it School A and we'll call it School B, the learning, where they are on that learning journey. So in some of our schools where I see that there's a lot of growth, I see that they have a strong system for not only identification, but they have, during the identification process, they have additional, due to our Title I funding, they have additional intervention and coaches that are able to work in the Universal. Some of our schools that do not have a coach also have leaders that have taken on that role, working with central office to provide professional learning, to provide some of the systems that we are supporting schools with. So it does have to do with the strategies that they're using. It has to do with the system of support for those strategies, and then it has to do with strong leadership. I believe that if you look at all 10 of our AGR schools, we have strong leaders in all of them.
I know that for a fact. I know
Thank
that
you.
for a fact. And John, I guess I'll shift the question to you. What are the supports? What are the supports and what are the directions that are being provided from you and your staff up here to those schools that are having the difficulties?
Sure. So it would have been nice had we had the MLSS presentation before this, because I really look at that as a metaphor for the way that we also try to provide support for schools. Because we first focus on what are we doing universally to support all schools. We want to make sure that we have consistent direction and support and guidance through coaching, through our executive directors. That would be a primary piece, as well as support from curriculum and instruction and assessment. So making sure that that universal is as high quality as possible. We also then have our school support teams, which have identified several schools that are basically schools that we want to work on for additional support. So we have teams of people that are representative of a variety of departments within the district, who are going in and spending time with the principal and the building leadership team to dig deeper and go into what is the problem identification piece, because it would be easy for us to theorize from a district office perspective what might be going wrong or what might be the deeper challenge within a school. But unless we actually are there spending time and getting data through conversation and observation, it's hard for us to really have that deeper assessment. So we want to make sure that we're assessing the problem correctly before we give the recommendations.
And not to interrupt, but I would think that those building principals could probably tell you as well as
Quite
anybody what those issues are.
Almost more often than not, of course. We look at the way we talked about, like, what percentage is it that we listen to the need of the principal? And I think it's, probably like 80-90%. That 20% is maybe what is something that they might not see, that they might miss, that we could coach around and move them forward. But I always look at when there's an issue, we first want to go to the people that are closest to the problem and ask them for their insights and knowledge on that particular problem. When it's a classroom issue, we talk to the classroom teacher. When it's an issue within the school, we first want to go deep with the principal and their building leadership team to figure out what is the problem for which we want to make sure that we're supporting. We're really looking, as we go into tighter budget times as well, how are we making sure that we're allocating our district resources so that the needs of the schools are addressed individually. We want to make sure that everybody gets a uniform level of service, but then we also recognize that there are schools that need extra intensive support, and what are we doing to identify that and provide that support. So that's something that we've had through a lot of our conversations related to staffing, to administrative support, to the trainings we're providing. So each of those pieces has been something that we've looked at. We're also looking at what are we doing to raise our own collective expertise, because I think that there's been opportunity here at the district office to work more collaboratively and learn, rather than work as separate departments, to work in a more collaborative nature so that we're sharing information and coming to more collective decision making. Also, with doing that, we're able to have a more finite number of initiatives and things like that we're trying to support. So we're looking at what is it that can best influence the greatest number of schools, and how can we get behind fully and deeply supporting fewer initiatives. So rather than having 20 things that we're trying to do as a district, how can we get behind 5 things and do them really, really well?
Or I shouldn't say if, but when a principal comes and asks for a particular type of support, how does that process work?
Well, it would go through our executive directors, and then it would be, depending on the type of support and the degree of need, we would have the team discuss it. Quite often we would do that either with our smaller team or with the whole learning support team. But we'd have to look at what is the request, and what are our resources, and do we feel that collectively, both with the principal voice and with the voice of our resources, do we feel that the request will take care of the root cause of the issue? And I'm just throwing out an example. This isn't something that actually came forward, but let's just say there are significant behavior issues at a school. And if a school was asking for 10 additional hallway monitors, that would be something that would be that could take care of the symptom of the problem, but wouldn't go deeper to the root cause. So we might work with the principal and their team on coaching around what do we have in place for universal supports and tier 2 and tier 3 interventions, in addition to those supervision pieces, because we want to make sure that we're, and quite often the principal would be coming to us with a pretty good request. It's not like we get outlandish requests, but we do want to consider how does it fit with the system as a whole, and are we making sure that it's deeply addressing the root causes of the issue as opposed to the symptoms.
Are the principals coming to you on a fairly regular basis with requests?
So
give me a ballpark as far as the percentage of time that you can honor their requests, that you can meet their needs, or the needs that they express.
District-wide, we have a system of support. So district-wide, there's a base that everyone receives. When it comes to student services or pupil services.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking, when they come to you and ask.
Yep, for academics also. Then from there, all of our AGR schools, and included would be, I think there are 5 more that are not AGR, but they are Title I. And the Title I schools, they work with their teams to select some of the supports that they need, so that it's individualized, because it's not one size fits all. It's really based on what the school needs. So they receive additional funding. They sit down in the spring with Ann and with me, and then also with Lisa Bynum, who is with Title I, and we look at their budgets. There are times that they feel they do have more needs. John and I will be in a school and we'll say they do have more needs. So we'll come back to central office and we'll look at what are the resources that we have right now that we would be able, quick win, short term, or even for then the following year. So it's here's our our pool of resources, how can we support the schools that we're working with when it comes to continuous school improvement? So the academic and it's hard to separate the behavior from the academic. It's just, it's really hard. I believe vision for all of us will be, when we give board reports, it'll be very comprehensive, and here are strategies for the systems that we have in place for learning about behaviors and the tiers of intervention for behavior, along with the tiers of support for academic. The MLSS presentation that was planned for this evening, it ran those two beautifully together to illustrate to all of you how you can run those two together and how they impact one another.
And we'll make sure that's fully shared in May as well. I think, too, it's important to note with title funding and other funding sources that there quite often are substantial additional resources that are given for support to a number of schools. So one school that might have a large title population might be receiving significantly more per student than your average school. So it's if somebody's coming with an additional request, sometimes that's after a lot has been allocated already through title for those supports. So there might not be an opportunity within that year to have the additional support, but then when we're looking at how we're strategizing with the title funds for the coming year, how can we work something in if it meets the root cause that's defined by the principal and their building leadership team.
If you're asking if we're meeting all the needs, we know there are more needs out there.
I know
We're
that. I know,
allocating
of
as
course.
much
Of course.
as we can.
An example that I had the opportunity to work with this year is one of the schools that I work with has always been a CHAMPS school, but then and they're dealing with behaviors, but then as we looked at their CHAMPS, as the turnover has happened, really it's a CHAMPS school where not everyone is trained. And so that was a
So they've lost
process.
fidelity.
Right, they
know
have.
that goes through.
But then we do have the opportunity, because we have a district trainer that can go in and support. And so that was something that we recognized, and it was something that wasn't terribly expensive or time-consuming if the district person could go in and support right away.
Sometimes there's other supports too that are really about decision-making.
Right.
We put a lot of trust in our leaders at a school level. We trust them with our schools 24/7. So we also have to trust or work with them through coaching with them. We have to trust that they're making decisions in the school that is supporting continuous school improvement. So an example is a principal emailed me last week, does not want to take on a new learning, really has a good pulse. It's already been demonstrated to me that this principal has a good pulse of what's happening in the school. Does not want to take on some new learning that is going to be provided for them next year. Wants to go deeper with the learning that they're doing right now. Yep, you have that decision to make that. At the end of so many years, here's our outcome around student achievement. So therefore, we have to have
And I
process
hope in a
goals.
situation like that, yes, I think it's very important to honor what they're saying.
Absolutely.
But it does need to be supported by those data to show that the
Absolutely.
gaps are indeed closing.
Yep, right. Yep. So we look at the data, and those are the conversations, those are the conversations that we have. Let's talk about what's happening in your school around achievement gap reduction and closing the achievement gap and the high leverage strategies and implementation. And what we actually most critically talk about when I'm working with principals is what are the practice changes that you see? Because that student achievement is the lagging indicator. The practice, what's happening in the classroom, is the leading indicator. If I do this, then the lagging indicator, the student achievement, will change.
We also recognize too that there are many we have a great administrative team with a lot of collective expertise, and so during our principal leadership time, we've worked to make sure that we have a lot of opportunity for structured collaboration. So just like we have professional learning communities for our teachers to gather by department and discuss what are the best practices and make sure those are spread. We also do the same with certain practices related to our instructional leadership and our behavioral leadership within the building, so that we're emphasizing allowing for the for the students or the schools that are excelling, you pointed out that some schools are doing better than others. What are opportunities that if I have a promising practice in one area, that I can share it with my colleagues, and if you have a promising practice in another, you can share it. So that it's done in a structured way, so it's not just chatting, of course, but it's really meant to be focused on how can we collectively bring forward and distill the best ideas and make sure that they're shared as well as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe you said it when you missed, and you're back to Mr. Doris' initial question about disparity between or among the schools. Has an analysis been made of the why of that, as to why some schools are doing well? What are they doing that causes them to do well? What is being done or not being done in the schools where it's not going well? And if this hasn't been done, will it be done? And if so, when? And back to your comment, John, about not just having conversations, being a little bit more systematic about how this is approached.
So through our work in the schools, there's a strong difference in achievement when a school focuses on practices. So they're looking at data, but they're not just collecting the data and talking about the data. They're saying, what does the adult learner need in addition to what we've already provided in order to support the change of outcomes in the student achievement? So the schools that I work with where there is strong achievement gap reduction happening, closing the achievement gap, they have systems in place right now. They are doing a lot of work around increased practice. Some of them are ready on their school success plans to put process goals, which are practice goals. So we've taken a baseline on the proficiency of instruction in the classroom in certain areas. We measure that, and then we implement some and take on new learning, and then we go back and we measure the practice change to see what the growth in the practice change has been. With that said, we recognize our AGR schools are working with some of our most complex children. And so we know there are strong variables that are going to impact the work that they do and the data. In addition to that, I would say, yes.
I think, and I don't think you're saying this, we're not going to use that as an excuse why some of our kids are not progressing, correct?
Correct.
That's a given that they have those
We don't have
issues
control
that
of
we
that. Right.
have to deal with. Now, are you telling me by your last example that's what's going well and that's why some of the better achieving schools are doing better?
Yep.
And if so, then are you telling, off of that, I'm assuming that schools that aren't doing as well are not doing that, and are you now working with those other schools to say, hey, you need to be doing this?
The assessments that you are looking at right now on this report are curriculum assessments. There's a lot of learning that happens at each school, not only about the assessment, but how to use the results to go back into the classroom and differentiate to support student learning. So I cannot tell you right now that every single one of those schools where you see that there may have been a dip in achievement from the beginning of the year to mid-year, that they are not doing a good job with looking at practice. Most of them, all of them are. All of our AGR schools are using collaborative teams to videotape each other's lessons, to teach the teachers how to give formative feedback to one another to help improve instruction. All of them have different levels of implementation based on where they are in that journey and that learning. AVMR Math, brand new this year for the majority of our schools, that we're using it comprehensively to actually inform instruction. Not just taking the assessment, putting it into an assessment wall and talking about the results. We're actually using it to change practice in the classroom. Running records, we've been doing running records and reading records for 10 years in our district. I would say last year and this year is the first time we've really drilled down to looking at running records not as a standardized to compare growth of school, but to actually inform instruction. And that is through the support of teaching and learning, our assessment department. We've also become more aligned with the bilingual education, looking at one universal. What does one universal look like in all of our classrooms? And then what are the assessments that are going to help us really drill down into what we need to be doing to improve practice in that universal classroom. The other thing is that in the schools that I work with where I see a lot of growth happening, the collaborative teams, they have a feedback loop. So there's what we call reciprocal accountability, where there are opportunities for them to come together, large group, break into small group, and share with one another in a very public, and what I mean by public is the learning community itself. So you share with your teachers, your colleagues, what it is that you're taking on for new learning. You problem solve together around a kiddo who isn't taking on new learning. And then you move through, which is really critical work we are doing with our teaching and learning and the student services. So under Nancy Chartier, Michael Fries, and Vicki Byers' leadership, looking at that multi-level system of support and ensuring that we have a process to identify kids early on and intervene on their behalf, not only in the universal, but in that additional support through our intervention system. Does that answer your question, Dr. Wagner?
Well, yes and yes and no.
Okay.
It seems to me if we're in central office and we have an overview of what's going on in the various buildings, which is much harder to do when you're in a building, that we know something is good and should be done, that we should not be just having a conversation about it. We say, hey, you need to be doing this, your school's down here, we need to get up here, we know this works.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be, not saying it is, but it shouldn't be, well, let's talk about it, hope you'll do this.
Right, no,
You know,
it's
our
not.
kids can't wait on that.
No, it's not a
Yeah.
voluntary piece. I think we're really clear with direction, what are the areas that we want to support. I would say that just like a good building principal works with teachers who are coming at things with a variety of skills and understanding, we work more from a coaching perspective. Not that there are definite times of tolls and there are definite times of higher accountability, but we are looking for how can we grow expertise as opposed to force change in practice. There are times when there is a promising practice that we need to see in place, that we work collaboratively with the principal team to move forward together. But we also really look at listening to the voices of what are the key resources. If there are certain things that we are moving forward on, what is it that the principals and teachers need for support so that we can be there for them. Again, so it's done in a collaborative, supportive way, but there's also the separate hand of accountability that's making sure that the promising practices are in place and that we're measuring what we're looking for, and also having a clear understanding of what we're seeing or not seeing. That allows us to come back and refine our decisions as we move forward, just the way that we expect schools to do through short cycles things work.
Here's an example of reciprocal accountability. We have school success plans, and we have a process rubric that we are using. Reciprocal accountability is that we've asked our leaders to take that rubric and to work with their building leadership team for them to assess where they are at, do the self-reflection as a team. The reciprocal accountability is we don't just assess and say this is where we think we are. We want artifacts that they present to us in our coaching meetings with the principals. We have artifacts that actually move that in from an assumption or a self-perception into evidence. So we ask for a variety of different artifacts, and we list some of what those may be.
So if I heard you correctly, when you're going through your PowerPoint, that next year this data report will be much different because we'll be using STAR normed reference assessments instead of
Correct.
The two we have. And I guess Is this the format that's required by AGR, or did we create how we were reporting data?
Act 53, so the state statute outlines that you need to give 2 board reports a year, that you need to set what is called learning objectives, so it's the goals. The principals with their building leadership team have them in their school success plans. You'll see those, and then at the end of the year, but then at mid-year, that you give a progress report on what student achievement, how it has changed from beginning of year to mid-year, so baseline to mid-year, and the strategies that you have implemented.
Okay.
We have been working with DPI for the last 2 years on our AGR reports. What DPI has told us through conference calls is that actually Green Bay has one of the most extensive AGR reports. We believe that is because we've been working under Mark Smith's leadership and now under John's leadership to move away from compliance to really about continuous school improvement.
Because the reason I asked that question is just because there's some things in here that I would like to see different, and I didn't know if I was restricted by requirements from AGR.
We're very open to input.
Okay.
I would also say that the structure of progress monitoring reports that will be coming in a cyclical nature through the board on an annual basis, so that we'll be going through our monitoring reports in a structured way that reflects on the different cycles throughout the year. You'll notice that we start with looking at the individual school success plans, and then we take those school success plans and we identify what are the patterns that we need to look for as far as support to make sure that we're both giving the support and holding accountable the schools to what they hope to work on and what we feel that they need to work on. So that structure of progress monitoring report, in addition to our AGR reports, I think overall will give the board a much better sense on a regular, timely basis of what's happening in the schools and what are we doing to respond to the needs of the schools. I also think that the strategic plan, we've gotten considerably tighter around our 4 priority areas and what are the key action steps within those. When we're able to cascade those key strategies into support for the school in a more concise, collective way through those progress monitoring reports, it will become really clear what is happening or what isn't happening. And that's really our biggest hope. I think, unfortunately, sometimes with data, it's easy to put things together to either make them look bad or make them look good, depending on the desire and need at the time. But I think what we're really hoping for is to not make things look good or bad, but to make things look as clear as possible. Because with that clarity, we can make the best decisions. You can make the best decisions as a board on how you direct us, and we can make best decisions as a leadership team and how we can support our schools and provide direction there as well.
I'm wondering why K through 3 is bundled when you're presenting math assessment, percent students meeting benchmark or reading meeting benchmark. Because if I read this correctly, this is K through 3rd grade.
Yep.
What percentage of students are meeting benchmark? Because that tells me a little bit, but if you take a look at a graph below that, in fact, in many cases, 2nd grade is way up.
Yeah.
1st, 3rd, and 2nd and 3rd are like way down here. So I'm curious what the reason for that is.
Yeah.
But so by bundling it, I'm not really, it kind of blurs everything in terms of percent achievement. And then the other thing that this doesn't tell me is, it tells me how the kids started and whether they, are showing growth within one school year, but it doesn't let me know, is the baseline growth also happening? In other words, if a school was at, 20% one year at their initial assessment, are they at 23% this year? Are they making climbs upwards? Because all this does is just gives me a 1 year, a 1 year snapshot of what's going on in that school in that year. And to me, that's good information, but it also, I think if you look at continuous improvement as a district, it doesn't tell me, is there continuous improvement? I'm not seeing any of that information in this data report.
So that, first of all, I want to address the disaggregating at a grade level. In the district, so the first couple pages, it is not disaggregated at a grade level. Each individual school report is disaggregated.
Each school has a report that's not disaggregated. It's K-3, each school has a.
Yep, that is let's go, can you pull up, let's just pull up Dan's school.
Go to page 9.
Page 9. So in the chart,
So chart 8, if I look at that, that's all kindergarten and third grade students all bundled up together based on their low socioeconomic ESL services. And then the next one, they're all bundled up together again based on race. And then the next one, we go to math.
Got it.
I mean, so it's picky, but it just.
No, I see what you're saying.
It just is like, I'm not
So you
sure
would
what
like
that chart
it-
tells me.
You'd like us to drill down. So in other words, you would like for our English language learners, there's 186 kids, you would like that broken out by grade level. Because you'll see on table 7, at the bottom, kindergarten, first, second, third grade is broken out. So up on top, it's overall. Then it's disaggregated by socioeconomic, spec ed, English language learner. Then it goes into ethnicity, and then it goes into grade level. And that is for each school for both reading and each school for math. In addition to that, the graphs that follow that also.
Right. So I guess I'm just wondering, my question is, when I look at these aggregated numbers, what are they telling me?
Can you scroll back up?
Other than a
previous
very
chart?
high level, kind of
I think part of it too is looking at the demographic trends too. So if we're being careful not to report cell sizes of less than 5.
Right.
And so like multi-race, we have 8 students even when you combine the different grade levels. So we wanted to show that particular piece, but there isn't a reason that we couldn't break it down further by the individual grade level and look at. We might not be able to go as deeply with the demographic specifics because they would become self-identifying, but we could go deeper with the individual grade levels and keep it as a more generic, less broken down demographic perspective.
which you eventually do in these reports. They do go, at the end, they're broken down by grade level. So then, what is that phenomenon of second grade math?
Yep.
Way up here.
So the AVMR, and actually our principals would do a really good, because we receive so many phone calls, like, oh my goodness, look at this. It really has to do with what is expected from the student. In kindergarten, it is, you have to count to, is it 100, I think, forward, and you have to count backwards from 10. As you get into first grade, there's more structuring of numbers that has to happen. Get into addition and subtraction. There is one where you're going to see where at grade level where they drop drastically in achievement compared to the other ones, and I believe it's actually second grade. Where you drop, if you bring out your fingers and use your fingers at all, you don't get the points on the assessment. And that's why we need to be giving a public report that is standardized, that is actually looking at growth, progress over time. Curriculum assessments follow the learner. So it informs the teacher, it informs the school on the strategies. The standardized assessment would give you as the board members and then also our community a really good look at change over time.
So that's what we'll get next year.
That's what you'll get next year.
I thought all our schools were doing STAR this year. They're not.
No, they are not.
Oh, okay.
Well,
But they will next
do
year.
it at the beginning of
We do not have comparative data baseline mid-year in all of our AGR
If I
schools.
did correctly, next year we will have, the report will show student growth, much as the school report card shows student growth.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
that's one of the most important
Yes.
measures we have, more important than
Yep.
whether or not they have individual.
I agree too, because we want to show that individual students are showing growth
Right.
as well as just the general student population meeting proficiency.
So we will be district-wide, not just our AGR schools, because we also want to be able to put, the heart of AGR is low socioeconomic status. And DPI agrees that we don't have an assessment that all schools use, that you can take state of Wisconsin low socioeconomic status and compare it to non-identified LSE. And we have Forward right now, but it is third grade only. So we don't have anything for kindergarten, first, and second. PALS is no longer a statewide assessment. So the Green Bay School District needs to come up with a standardized assessment that we are going to use, that we can look at change over time on our standardized, either the SCAL score or the NCE, the normal curve equivalency.
So we're using, what assessment are we using that if you look at your fingers, it's wrong in second grade when it was, what assessment is that?
That is the Advantage Math Recovery AVMR, and that is part of the assessment. It's a curriculum assessment. We use it for instruction. So when a child brings out their fingers, they're not relying on the visual images according to this assessment. They're not relying on, I'm going to call them visual imaging. It is called, help me out.
Constructs?
Yeah, it's a skill that they're testing, and it's called, like, what is it when you can, 6 + 2, yes. Say it again? Subitizing. I want you to know, at Martin School, a little boy came and explained to me what subitizing was all about. He knew exactly. He said, I don't have to use my fingers anymore. It helps me to process. But I could not remember the word. He knew the word, but I could not remember the word.
So this is not okay, so AVMR, using this AVMR skill assessment, essentially, really, it might have been best available something, but it's really not, it never was intended for the real way we would track AGR.
Right. I would say it's not meant for tracking of AGR as a formal final process, but it can be really informative for the teacher and the learner to make growth. So if I know that I'm using my fingers still when I have to count, my teacher might need to work with me more to think about it as a theoretical concept so that I can subitize.
You also might be fine, and that might be how you work better, but we want to expose you to both models.
Right.
Yep.
So, so was that just, in some cases, the best available measure we had was the AVMR? Because AVMR also is primarily a deficit recovery model, right? It's not a curriculum in and of itself.
No.
Not exactly?
No, but, and I would say as far as it being used as an assessment, again, it's intended as an assessment for learning rather than an assessment of learning, and we're really shifting to the STAR as our main assessment. Pardon? As an assessment of learning, because we want to make sure that the assessments we're looking at for our board reporting purposes are clearly standardized and can kind of give us that 1,000-foot view. How are our students performing in math rather than does John subitize properly?
So they would be doing both. At a school level, you'll be using the curriculum assessments for continuous school improvement. You'll be looking at what are next steps in learning for each individual child, and what do I need to do as the practitioner in the classroom to support that learning for that child. You'll also be doing STAR 3 times a year. Kindergarten and first grade, we have, through the research that Gwen has done with Renaissance, we've been able to look at what is our little ones who aren't ready for STAR reading. STAR early literacy and numeracy, you have to have a reading text level of 100 sight words, which puts you at about a level, Fontes and Pinnell level E, which allows us to gauge when we should move them into STAR reading and math versus STAR early literacy numeracy. We needed an assessment that kindergarten through 5th grade, and actually STAR early literacy and numeracy, if we have kids who are performing, instead of just looking at them as a grade level, we'd be able to look at where are they at instructionally and start using the assessments, the standardized assessment that meets their instructional level.
Okay, so future board reports, then we should be able to get on to situations where we have assessments of learning to report, so we're apples to apples.
2017-18. So we will come to the board again in August of 2017, where we will have end of the year for this report that shows where the schools have moved, the students have moved from baseline, mid-year, end of the year. Additionally, they all have goals that they've written, and they'll be reporting out on their student achievement goals for literacy and math.
Yeah, thank you.
If I could just make a comment. You know, I think one of our goals as this report was prepared tonight, it was to get to the root of what the board needed and wanted, and I think that the conversation really to provide, you know, as John said, not just the good news or what you want to see, but to really have a robust, deep conversation about the learning, about the progress, and about the work that has been going on and what continues to move forward was really the intention. So as we look forward, you know, I think to have those norm reference standardized assessment pieces, as Andrew talked about, is critical. I think also really recognizing that being able, as Mr. Dorff spoke to, the growth data will be very helpful as well. So,
absolutely.
You know, but if there are other suggestions, we certainly are open and would like to make sure that the governance components that you need to make good decisions are brought to you in this kind of format, now and in the future.
One of the things that we encourage all of you as board members is come into our schools, ask our principals to sit down with you, ask them to help you understand the curriculum-based assessment. You're going to get the standardized assessment in the future, but that doesn't mean we don't want you to be in working with our principals in the schools, looking at their curriculum assessment. They know best why their data looks the way it does and what their next steps are as a learning community. All 10 of our principals sitting behind me right now could tell you right now what their next steps in professional learning and in high leverage strategies for next year need to be focused on. So please go into our schools and ask them. Kristen, can you pull back? Can we move? Are you okay if we move on, or were there other questions? I don't want to. Okay. I have the clicker, I'm sorry. I'm running off at two different. Here. Data analysis, tools, and reports. We've been talking a lot about WISE-Local. Stephen, Josh, Diane, and Gwen have been working really hard with central office staff, all of our departments, to really look at WISE-Local and look at how can we record data, pull it into reports to analyze it, and then talk about what are we going to do differently to change the results of the data. So assessment for learning, WISE-Local, we are going to be using, and then also Infinite Campus data assessment walls and reports. Dr. Warren, when you talked about wanting it to drill down further and disaggregate it at a grade level within the ethnicity and the different subgroups, we should have a tool in WISE-Local where our principals will be able to do that. Then also assessment of learning, again, WISE-Local, so those public reports on the static WISE-Local, and then also through the board progress monitoring reports that John talked a little bit about this evening. And then just lastly, growing our future capacity for continuous school improvement. We know that we need to have stronger partnerships with schools to support assessment literacy, to provide clarity and a deeper understanding of the purpose, intent, and use of the collection and analysis of data. And then we also need to see how those strategies are in those school success plans. We believe because it's a process rubric that we use with the school success plan, that as our principals start working with their building leadership teams in analyzing the process that they're using for continuous school improvement, that they also will start showing increased practice. Then also the structures for reciprocal accountability or progress monitoring throughout the process. So the rubrics, effective team rubrics that we use observation protocols, and then the consistency of the pre-K through 12 board monitoring reports that we touched on this evening. Any questions for any of us here at the board table or any of our principals, our leaders behind us?
Dr. Wagner?
Well, I would first of all, I want to just say thank you to all of you being here and what you're doing. These are the sort of discussions we need to have at the board table, better understanding, not just for us, but we have to educate our public out there as to what we're doing and how well our students are doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say thanks as well to Ann, Andrea, and Stephen, as well as especially to our building principals, or our school principals who are working hard on a daily basis with each of our teachers to ensure that we have a really high quality of education for all learners. So thank you.
Julian, I just want to basically repeat what Chris and John just said too. The questions may be pointed, but they're in no way a criticism. The level of professionalism that's being practiced in our elementary schools under the leadership of these principals right now is higher than anything that I experienced as a principal, and I've only been retired 1, 2, 3, 4 So, but
Some work to be done there.
But I do know how to count the spots on dice. There
you go.
But thank you all for what you're doing, and I mean that sincerely. I know how hard you're working in looking at that data and doing something with that data and leading your staffs around those things. So I mean that very, very sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you.
A final shout out to Gwen Stromp, Josh Patchak from our technology department, also Julie and Claudia, Julie Seafelt and Claudia Orr, who really supported building consensus. We have a fabulous IT department. Josh has been working very closely with Stephen, our building principals, also with our department to really ensure that we have our data click away. So thank you to all of you. Huge thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to just say thank you so much for inviting the board also into the schools and to making that comment to come in and talk to the principals. And it won't surprise you, but I'm sure you'll get visits. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is that all you have?
That's it.
Okay.
All right.
All right, next we'll move to our superintendent's update.
Thank you. I'll start with the calendar. Coming up May 1st through 5th is Staff Appreciation Week. May 1st is our Teaching and Learning Work Session meeting beginning at 5:30 here in the boardroom, immediately followed by the Organizational Support Work Session meeting as well. On May 10th is a Cooperative Education Service Agency Annual Convention, and on May 15th, a regular board meeting beginning at 5:30. May 18th, we honor our retirees at the Retirement Recognition Ceremony at 5 o'clock at the Riverside Ballroom. And then on May 24th, we have the ICSC meeting with the board at 7 a.m. And then May 25th is our student art reception from 4 to 5:30 here at the district office. May 29th is Memorial Day, and the district buildings are closed. And I did note that there was a missing date on our calendar. On June 1st is the Minoka Hill graduation at East Auditorium, and I can't recall the time, but I could see that on my calendar. I think it's at 7 p.m., but let's double check that and get that out there. And then we begin our high school graduations on June 4th at the Crest Center. This year we begin at noon with Southwest High School. West High School follows at 3 p.m., and then East High School will graduate at 7 p.m. And that's all on June 4th at the Crest Event Center. June 7th is the Preble High School graduation at the Resch at 7 p.m. And then June 8th is the John Dewey Academy of Learning graduation at 5 p.m. at the Academy at 1420 Harvey Street here in Green Bay.
Does the Minoka Hill graduation include the academy group, or do they have a separate
I believe so.
graduation?
Altogether.
Okay.
And I know they have some corporate sponsors that are going to be supporting that as well. So,
What time is that?
I have 6 o'clock on my calendar.
For-
okay.
That's June 1st?
Yep, and we'll
Okay.
make sure we get that on the district calendar as well and do that correction. It's at East Auditorium, if I'm accurate? Okay, all righty, very good, thank you. And I apologize for not checking that sooner. All of a sudden, I was going through all the graduations and recalled that Minoka was going to have a separate one this year as well. So that concludes the calendar that I have for this evening. And then I do have just a couple of items for success stories. I did want to share with the Board of Education and the community. I did receive a voicemail from State Superintendent Dr. Tony Evers congratulating the Board of Education and the administration and staff and school district and the whole community for the successful referendums, noting that it is a positive step for the district, but a positive step for the students and families in the state of Wisconsin as well. So I wanted to pass that along to you. And then also to share with you, we received some good news last week from the Department of Public Instruction. The 2 of our elementary schools, Kennedy Elementary as well as Chapel Elementary, both have been identified as Title I Schools of Recognition this year for beating the odds. And to achieve that award, they are schools that certainly qualify for title. They are in the top 25% of high poverty schools in the state, and they have above average student achievement in reading and mathematics for schools of similar size and similar demographics. So I know that this morning Kennedy Elementary had a pretty nice little celebration. It was a nice surprise, and the principal made sure it was on their marquee, and I was able to stop by and celebrate a bit with them and congratulate them for all their hard work. And then I know that Chapel has their celebration coming up in the future. There is a special recognition in Madison where representatives from the schools will be awarded a recognition through a reception and ceremony, actually, I believe, at the Capitol. And they'll receive a plaque recognizing their accomplishment as well as being afforded a logo that they can use in future communications, which I think is very nice, giving them that acknowledgement as well. You know, and I think one of the things that it certainly, these kinds of recognitions and the support of our teachers and our principals and the staff all working so very hard is a really nice, welcome opportunity. And I encourage them to celebrate just a bit because they certainly deserve it. So anyway, that concludes my report this evening.
All right, thank you. We have no legal update, and next is the Intercity Student Council report. Grace?
Okay, so we'll start out with West. So they have their state forensics and their state solo ensemble coming up. And also their musical 9 to 5 is being performed. They had a blood drive on April 6th. Went well. And they also have soccer and softball starting. They just had their student council elections, so their new council will be getting together and forming so that they can start some of the things that they already need for next year. And they have their prom on May 6th. Next is John Dewey. So their student council had their first meeting, and they passed their first motion to get morning announcements on because they currently don't have those. So their student council is doing great things for them. They had their prom back in January, so they're kind of not in prom season anymore. They had their last event night, and so now the seniors are all just working on their capstone projects and starting to finalize those and getting ready to present them. For Preble, we had our prom on April 1st. It was held at school. We also have many clubs that went to state. So FBLA went to state, HOSA went to state, and FCCLA went to state. We have DECA Nationals coming up next week, actually. Next Wednesday we leave, and we have 12 people going. Southwest also has students going as well. We also have the EU Summit, and we are getting 2 more freshmen for that. Senior Ball is May 19th at the Meadows, so that's the only dance we don't have at school. And we have our girls soccer, lacrosse, boys golf, softball, baseball, boys tennis, and track all getting started and underway. For East, they have their prom April 22nd. They also just had their student council election, so their council is getting used to the new officers and everything like that and just planning the end of the year things. And their track and girls soccer and boys golf all have started as well. Southwest, they had their spring fling week, so they all did hallway decorations and the whole school got really into it. Every grade had their own hallway to decorate, and then they judged based on who had the best hallways, and it showed a lot of school spirit. They also have all spring sports underway: baseball, track, softball, girls soccer, and lacrosse, which is a GBU team, so all the schools have lacrosse players. They also had their annual Powder Buff, which is boys volleyball tournament, and that was really successful. And they also have students going to DECA Nationals in Anaheim, which is next week. And they also had students compete at FCCLA State.
What's that?
Family Consumer something.
No, FCC. FCC?
FCCLA. It's
LA.
a Family Consumer Sciences type club.
Okay. So
That's
they
all I
do,
have.
what groups are in that club? What kind of, do you know? I don't
Mostly
mean to put
like
you on the spot.
people who want to go into education or childhood education or health careers even, but HOSA is more health
HOSA's,
careers.
yeah, okay.
But it's both.
Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
There you go, family, careers.
Common knowledge.
And you have other students going to Anaheim, aren't you?
Yeah, yes. Thank you. That's all I have.
That's it. All right. Thank you, Grace. Next is our legislative liaison report. I'll turn that over to Julie.
First, I have to say that I'm going to have to fill some very big shoes, but I've taken this over from Mike Blacka, so bear with me. It's going to take a while. John is going to explain the impact of the discontinuance of the after-school program. That is a possibility based on what's coming out of the federal government tonight, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
So there were some proposed changes in the federal budget for the 2018-19 school year, or 2018 budget that President Trump has put forward as a potential budget. And those effects call for the elimination of funding for after-school programming. And we've shared a document that outlines the funding that we've received so far, in addition to some additional grants that we've written for additional funding. Those of you who have worked with after-school programming know the significant positive impact it can have on students and the school community as a whole. So this change in funding is something that we're concerned about, and we want to make sure that we have as much information as possible so that we can think from a strategic standpoint moving forward. If you take a look at our timeline sheet, in 2014-15, we received $350,000 for 21st century funding for a variety of schools. In 15-16, it was $500,000 or $500,000. This past year, it increased to $550,000 for, again, a variety of schools. We've had progress monitoring reports that have showed the positive impact, not just from a academic perspective, but also socio-emotional perspective as far as the impact on students. Really, these programs fill a gap in our community that isn't necessarily covered by one particular entity. So through our after-school programming, we're able to provide academic support for students as well as a safe, supportive learning environment for students after school. So those programs would be potentially impacted severely if the funding were cut. Additionally, we've written nearly $1 million worth of funding grants for additional grants that are part of the grant cycle. There's a new grant cycle coming forward that is something that we've written the grants for. Mr. Vandertye, Corey, did a lot of work in late March to finish those grants along with our school principals on those potential funding sources. As a former principal with an after-school program, I would say that it has deep impact and support for the lives of our students, and it's also very beneficial quite often for the parents who look to the program as having a supportive environment for the students after school as well. So if Congress chose to eliminate funding for the 21st Century Community Learning Centers as proposed in President Trump's budget, this would again be for the 18-19 school year. We could potentially lose up to $1,370,000 annually. So that would have significant impact on our students, particularly after school. And as you know, a lot of our after school programs serve students who quite often are in more challenged situations, more often than not coming from situations of poverty. And so these supports are something that we feel are incredibly important. Just a couple of points of consideration with our funding cycles. We do have, it's a cyclical nature, so we do have a couple of schools that are coming off their grant cycle, but it does have a significant impact on the support for those students. Mr. Vandertye also wrote a letter to Senator Tammy Baldwin, and she responded, basically saying that she was going to be fighting as hard as possible for support for those funds to make sure that we have after-school programming. And she noted that over 100,000 students in the state of Wisconsin participate in after-school programming through the funds that come through the DPI grants, and that 80% of parents and community members support after-school programming. So there's widespread community support for these programs. So this is something that we just wanted to make sure the board was abreast of, because it has a significant impact on our potential future to serve students in after-school programming.
Would you know how many youngsters would be affected within our district should the funding not be forthcoming?
I would have to get the exact number, but each of our sites quite often can serve up to 100 students per day. And with 7 sites, and if we have additional sites adding on, it could be potentially over 1,000 students.
It says 4,500. 4,500 students in the presentation.
Yeah.
4,500 throughout the course of a year. I'm thinking of like the students who are there on an average daily basis, because not all students are at the schools or at the programming sites each day. So just looking at roughly 100 students per program per day. Those students might be, some students might come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, others might come Tuesday, Thursday, but overall it could have a negative effect on 4,500 students.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you so much,
All right,
John.
thank you.
Secondly, I believe Andrew is coming, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And the other question we have, he's going to speak on the energy efficiency. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's a couple of pieces of Governor Walker's budget. First of all, it's the actual budget itself, which why this is important, and in a realistic timeline for this, when we're going to finally know the budget, I'm not anticipating any earlier than June. The reason because of that is that they're waiting for one more revenue projection that's supposed to come in early to mid-May. I wouldn't anticipate that they'd make any type of decision before that, because a lot of it is contingent upon what money they believe that they're going to be bringing in. So as we look at why June, because of the budget, why is that important is that there's a provision in the budget that talks about the district, all districts in Wisconsin receiving a $200 stipend for this coming year, a $204 stipend the following year. And so for us, that translates to about $4.4 million. We're proceeding cautiously. where we're optimistic on that, we need to be cautious about it because it's not necessarily guaranteed. Upon releasing his budget, almost immediately there is opposition. And so as we're looking at what this means for the district, we're planning for the purposes of not potentially receiving any money, scaled up to the full $200. So we're being very cautious as we plan ahead. Specifically, there are two other, because it's the umbrella of not just the budget itself and the financial, but there's other components that have been worked into the budget, one of which is the energy efficiency exemption, what we've been using, the Act 32 and the Act 28. It's a revenue limit exemption. We've utilized it the past several years. We are using it about $16 million for the current year. It's for the purpose of increasing our energy efficiency, becoming more efficient in our buildings. And so we've utilized it the past couple of years. I did plan on using it. We have earmarked about $3 million that could potentially be levied in 17-18. But if the legislation goes through, if the budget is passed without this being included or actually pulling it out, not making it available anymore, that would then jeopardize that availability. So there are districts right now that are approving a resolution before the budget goes into effect or before it comes law to not be able to utilize it. That is something that the district could either utilize, or we could potentially see if that would be re-included or put back into the budget where we could utilize it in 2017-18 or not even use it. But that's a discussion for a little bit of a different day, but it is right now slated to be pulled. The last piece, and this is where both the energy efficiency exemption as well as the last piece is there's Senator Strobel has presented a bill to significantly limit referendum votes. On just main votes, and then not just that, but there's some other stipulations. So both of those I'd classify, one primarily at the board level because it's the board that approves the energy efficiency exemption, but it's the referendum that's actually goes to the community. And so it's been, it takes away a lot of local control. That's what both of these do. Specifically, Senator Strobel, so he's introduced a bill. He did it the last go around, and it did not have much traction. This time I think there were 7 other individuals that co-signed with him on this bill, and they're looking at having a little bit more traction. So I think it's something that we need to pay attention to, even though we did just have a successful referendum. I'm thinking out long term that 3-5 years from now, as we've shared with the community, this could potentially still impact us. There are a couple positive pieces. He's talking about a little bit more accountability or even transparency, disclosing a little bit more information regarding the interest percent or even the total interest cost, the dollar amount of these debt issues and whatnot. But again, it's a little bit awkward in the sense that it really does limit districts. So I think we need to be cautious about it. But as it unfolds, we'll make sure that we share information. Any questions on either one of those? Any of the 3 topics?
Well, there are some other critical points of that Billy's proposing regarding operational referendums and what that would mean.
Yeah.
As far as our ability, actually the state aids that would be cut. Why don't you address that?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the provisions in this bill is that districts that have an operational referendum would have a 20% penalty of the, whatever dollar amount was approved, there'd be a 20% penalty, which essentially means in state aid, not in the dollar amount, because the operational referendum increases the revenue limit, doesn't necessarily say where the money is coming from, but there'd be a 20% penalty of that dollar amount decreasing that district's state aid, therefore increasing their property taxes and their mill rate. So that's a very important piece of that. So, yeah.
Should the governor's budget go through before amendment plus what come our way? I don't need the answer for it, but any thought of filling in that gap between the operational $16 million that was passed and the $2 million deficit and what was proposed, and the rest of it going towards development?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you so much, Andy. I think that was really, thank you for helping me last minute.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. The only other thing that I have is this meeting is that there is a joint finance committee hearing Friday, April 21st at Marion High School. And that the few other things that are in the governor's budget that are going to affect us is the Act 10 compliance certification, and this requires each school district to certify to the DPI that employees of the school district will be required to pay at least 12% of all costs and payments associated with employee health coverage plans. And that year, in order to receive the increased per pupil categorical aid payments proposed by the governor. And the governor proposes to increase those payments from the current $250 per pupil to $450 per pupil in 2017 and 18, and $654 in 2018-19. And that, I think we have to watch also. There's quite a bit in his budget that we have to watch, and we spoke to some of them, but I think that as we go along, we can bring more forward. And Michelle, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I could just share with the board and the public, when we go on Friday to testify, we're going as a team. And Dr. Warren will be testifying, I will be testifying. The focus of mine will be to encourage the governor's budget around the dollars. Obviously, there has been a lot of competition for those dollars right now as well. When some of the policy issues, the Joint Finance Committee actually pulled out of the governor's, or out of the budget, so they'll be addressed separately, which is good news. There's the mental health piece, so Vicki Beyer will be speaking to the mental health piece and the supports as we look to the challenging needs that we see in our district, so she'll be speaking to that. Diane Dersch will talk about our technology needs, in addition to, just even that difference between, in 1992, our technology budget was under $300,000, and now we're in a very different place with cybersecurity and the fiber and networks, and to talk about some of the cost savings efficiencies we put into place, but still the challenges that we have, particularly in a school district where many of our students don't have their own devices or access to Wi-Fi at home, and so how do we ensure that equity gap? And then we'll talk about some of the components also. Julie Seefeld will talk about our ever-changing ELL population, ever growing. I think one of the things that every time we have conversations with our legislators and our community, they're surprised to learn the shifting that's going on and the increase. Last year alone, we saw an increase of 400 students in our ELL program. That's a big, big increase in a very short period of time. And as we've shared, many of these students are coming to us from varied environments that have not had formal education, have been in refugee camp situations, and unlike sometimes in the past, the resettlement opportunities that are afforded families are not being afforded to many of the families we're serving. So we're kind of filling that gap in too around supporting the families as well. So a lot to talk about. We are going to be leaving at the crack of dawn so we can hopefully get on the agenda before midnight of that day. Some days are very long, but really hoping that some of the new conversation we're bringing that I haven't seen in a lot of the testimony around the need for the categorical aids that, around supporting ELL in the urban areas. You hear it for the rural and the technology, but we have just different ways to have these needs and make those requests for categorical, and not to forget about us too, because we're doing the best we can with what we have, but again, needing some additional resources as well.
And that is on Friday?
That's on Friday.
What time do the hearings begin?
10.
10, but you can register as early as when?
8.
8.
And sorry, what is the location again?
Marinette.
Marinette. Julie's got it.
Marinette High School is what I have.
Yeah.
And it's open to the public, and anyone can come to observe or give testimony?
Usually oftentimes with these kinds of hearings, there are a lot of people who line up in line, so earlier is better. If you want to.
If you want to speak.
If
If
you
you want
want
to
to
listen,
Yeah.
you can show up at 10.
I would I'd be interested in observing.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's, any more questions regarding any of the issues? Okay, I think that's it for legislative.
All right, are there any district events anyone would like to announce? All right, we will move on to our system reports then. Teaching and learning will be facilitated by Katie Maloney.
Thank you, Brenda. We have 3 action items. The first one, I move that the honor rolls policy, paren 345.5, paren, as presented, be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
McCoy? Yes. Sorry.
Dorf,
Aye.
Becker.
We know you're here.
Warren,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Ganch,
Aye.
Wagner,
Carried 7-0.
I move that the homeless students policy, paren 411.2, and procedures for providing equal access to district programs and services for homeless students, rule, paren 411.2R, as presented, be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Ganch,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Dorf,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I move that the student use of communication devices policy, paren 443.5, and procedures for implementing student use of electronic communication devices rule, paren 443.5R, as presented, be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Becker,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Dorf,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Ganch,
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
And that concludes our report.
All right, thank you, Katie. And next is organizational support. That will be facilitated by Dr. Wagner.
Thank you. We have quite a few recommendations for you under both business and human resources. I'm going to read off the sheet that was handed to us rather than the computer. There may be a slight difference between the two, so please don't be concerned. First recommendation is that the 2017-18 fee schedule as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Maloney,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Dorf,
Aye.
Ganch,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
Next recommendation is that the 2017-18 building rental fee schedule as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Wagner,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Ganch,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Dorf,
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
That the 2017-18 food service meal price schedule as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Becker,
Aye.
Ganch,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Dorf,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
Next is that the resolution designing public depositories as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Warren,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Ganch,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Dorf,
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
The next series of recommendations will be more bricks and mortar. The funding for that, help me out, Mr. Sarno, they're energy efficiency money and all these. So it's not from our recent referendum, it's, okay. So our public knows that. First recommendation is that Capel Brothers and Dietrich Construction be awarded the bid for general construction renovation work at Aldo Leopold School in the amount of $129,800 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Wagner,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Dorf,
Aye.
Ganch,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
That Elmstar Electric Corporation be awarded the bid for electrical renovation work at Aldo Leopold K-8 School in the amount of $370,767 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
McCoy,
Aye.
Dorf,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Ganch,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
That Herkman Mechanical Industries be awarded the bid for mechanical renovation work at Aldo Leopold School in the amount of $1,395 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Ganch,
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Dorf?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
That Verhalen Commercial Interiors be awarded the bid for acoustical ceiling renovation work at Ada Leopold School in the amount of $71,608 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Becker?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Wagner?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
There's now a series of recommendations about work at Friedrich Friebel Garden of Learning School. I have a question. I'm not sure whom to direct it to on that. I know in terms of what we wanted to do with the referendum, the one is to bring back many of our youngsters into their home schools. Does this mean we're still using that building? And if so, for how many youngsters? And then a question beyond that, since we're talking about potentially down the road using that site, expanding that site as an elementary school, the work being done here, would it be done in vain if we had to demo it or add on or whatever? So there's several questions there. I'll repeat them if need be.
Well, first of all, we anticipate continuing to use it as a 4K, 5K center for the next couple of years. Now, for instance, Baird will be worked on, the design will be worked on, this summer and this fall, and the construction will begin in the spring of 2017. So we won't even be able to occupy the new Baird until the fall of 2018. No, 2018 is where we start. 2019 is when we'll first be able to occupy Baird. We also know that there's a lot of growth that's going to be taking place, and we're going to be looking at Frabil as our site to handle any growth that will be taking place in some of the new subdivisions that are planned on the east side, very close to where Frabil is located. When we worked with the engineers, this was before the referendum went through, but anticipating that maybe we would have a successful referendum, we designed the heating system that if the building is expanded, that the heating system could be expanded. So if we determined that the best use for that building would be to expand it and turn it into a K5, like we've talked about, the system would be able to be done that way.
So if I'm hearing it correctly from administration, in a couple of years, we won't be looking back and saying, we spent all this money, we're not even using the building. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. The next recommendation is that IEI General Contracting be awarded the bid for general construction renovation work at Frabil Learning School in the amount of $526,130 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Wagner?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
That Elmstar Electric Corporation be awarded the bid for electrical renovation work at Frabil School in the amount of $92,789 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
McCoy? Aye. Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
That A&J Mechanical be awarded the bid for mechanical renovation work at Frabil School in the amount of $289,565 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Becker?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye.
Carried 7-0.
That Herkman Mechanical be awarded the bid for plumbing renovation work at Frabil School in the amount of $43,593 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Warren?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Janice?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
That Verhalen Commercial Interiors be awarded the bid for acoustical ceiling renovation work at Frabil School in the amount of $25,182 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Wagner?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I meant to point out earlier, I pointed out now that all these items we just voted on were subject to bid, and that information is available to the public if they wish to look at it. The next recommendation is that the bid for Wide Area Network WAN be awarded to Brown County with a 10-year contract at a cost of $842,334.04 as presented be approved. I don't know where the 4 cents came from.
It begs the question.
Second.
Sandy?
McCoy? Aye. Dorf?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
And now we have a series of recommendations under human resources. The first one being that the transfer of Amy Killiman, interim principal at Howell Elementary School, to principal, 12-month at Howell Elementary with no change in salary, $94,524, effective July 1, 2017, as presented, be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Janice?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Dorf?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Carried
Amy.
7-0.
Amy is here.
And Amy's here.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Callion, folks, Callion. Finlander name from the UP, Callion.
I worked with him before the meeting. We've tried to spell it phonetically, but it was close.
He was close.
It's pretty close.
You had to take credit for that,
Just,
didn't you?
well, just we practiced.
Tried to keep her, Amy lease, that was a lot easier, but then she went and got married a few years ago.
Very good.
Thank you. Next recommendation is and this is a, make sure I have the right one here, okay. That the issuance of educator contracts for 2017-18 school year as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Becker?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Wagner?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
That the 2017-18 health insurance rates for $250 deductible plan, $1,500 high deductible health plan with a health reimbursement account, and the minimum essential plan for active employees as presented be approved.
Second. I have one.
Andrew?
I won't repeat this for all the parts of this, but my position applies to all the parts. I'm voting yes on these rates in the insurance plan because I think a solution was reached that's the best for this year. And I look forward to making a motion soon, asking for a review, independent actuarial review of some of the data that we're using to make sure that we're making the best decisions going forward before we would make any significant changes. These rates all basically have a small addition to the current cost without changing the plan design.
Brenda?
Yes.
I just want to comment, I'm going to be abstaining on all of the questions. I realize that the retiree questions are separated out, but there is an overlap with so much of this. I just think to keep it cleaner all the way around, I just want to make that explanation up front. I will be abstaining from all of them.
All right, thank you. All right, Sandy?
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Dorf?
Abstain.
Janice?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Wagner?
Aye.
Carried 6-1 abstention.
That the 2017-18 health insurance rates for $250 deductible, $500 deductible plan, $1,500 high deductible health plan with a health reimbursement account, the minimum essential plan, and the prescription plan for retirees as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
McCoy? Aye. Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Dorf?
Abstain.
Carried 6-1 abstention.
That the rollover dollars for the $1,500 high deductible health plan with health reimbursement account for the 2017-18 plan year remain the same as the 2016-17 plan year, which is $1,000 for single medical and $2,000 for family medical, be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Warren?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
McCoy? Aye. Janice?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Dorf?
Abstain.
Carried 6 to 1 abstention.
That the maximum cap balance a plan participant may have in their HRA at the end of each year be presented as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Wagner.
Aye.
Maloney.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye.
Dorf.
Abstain.
Chance.
Aye.
McCoy. Aye. Becker.
Aye.
Carried 6 to 1 abstention.
That the 3-month run-out period for qualified expenses to be submitted for reimbursement through the HRA as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Becker.
Aye.
Dorf.
Abstain.
Chance.
Aye.
Maloney.
Aye.
McCoy. Aye. Wagner.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye. Carried 6 to 1 abstention.
All that remains is the consent items as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Becker.
Aye.
McCoy. Aye. Wagner.
Aye.
Dorf.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye.
Maloney.
Aye.
Chance.
Carried 6 to 7 to nothing. I got in a pattern there. All right, we do have a closed session. I'll read that motion. Special board meeting closed session has been scheduled for Monday, April 17th, immediately following the adjournment of the regular board meeting pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations, to wit, personnel matters. And pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, more specifically to wit, potential contracts. The meeting will begin in open session to consider the appropriate motion for a closed session so provided by law.
So moved.
Second.
Sandy?
Becker.
Aye.
Dorf.
Aye.
Chance.
Aye.
Maloney.
Aye.
McCoy.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye. Carried 7-0. We'll meet across the hall.